They say a man is only as strong as what he can endure. But I say, no, I scream, a man is only as great as the meaning he forges from that endurance. You want greatness? Then understand this. It never comes dressed in comfort. It comes dragging chains, soaked in blood, wearing the mask of suffering. And if you cannot learn to greet your pain like a mentor, you will never see the depths of your own power. Friedrich Nietzsche did not find greatness in spite of pain. He carved his greatness through it. His life wasn't a story of ease, no. It was a saga of agony, of isolation, of internal battles so brutal they would have broken ordinary men. His health collapsed, his body betrayed him, friends abandoned him, his mind pushed to the edge. And yet from this abyss he produced fire, words that cut through centuries, ideas that still detonate in the minds of those brave enough to hear them, because Nietzsche didn't run from pain. He stared it in the face and demanded, "What are you trying to teach me?" We live in a world that wants comfort, quick fixes, shiny shortcuts. We praise ease and celebrate instant gratification. But Nietzsche knew better. He knew that ease is a silent killer, that comfort doesn't grow you, it sedates you. He understood something most people will never grasp, that adversity isn't the enemy, it's the forge. And greatness? That only comes when the fire has licked your bones, when the storm has humbled your soul, and you still rise. That which does not kill me makes me stronger. You've heard it 1,000 times. But do you understand the depth of those words? They are not a slogan. They are a war cry. They are a vow to use the wreckage of your life as raw material, to not just survive, but to build something sacred out of the struggle. Nietzsche's body failed him, relentlessly. Migraines that tore his skull apart, vomiting, blindness. Weeks of torment so intense he could barely stand. Yet it was in those very moments, when the world closed in, when life seemed to declare war on him, that he found his truth. He wrote, beyond good and evil, half blind, half dead, yet fully alive inside. Because greatness isn't a matter of physical strength, it's about will. It's about the decision to create, even when life has given you every reason to collapse. You want to talk about mindset? Here it is. The mind is a battlefield, and most people lose before they ever pick up a weapon. They let self-pity win. They let fear hijack their thoughts. They let the pain define them, instead of refining them. But Nietzsche, he went deeper. He taught that your suffering can become your fuel if you interpret it differently, that you can will meaning into your agony. That pain, properly understood, is a ladder, not a coffin. You see, the average person tries to escape discomfort, but the extraordinary person, he leans into it. He asks, why is this here? What is it burning away in me? What is it revealing that I've been too afraid to confront? And in that confrontation, he transforms, he becomes. You are not here to avoid struggle, you are here to be sharpened by it, because every wound is a doorway, every scar is a lesson, every heartbreak a blueprint for reinvention. But only if you choose to listen. Nietzsche listened, and from that place of unbearable silence, he gave birth to the Übermensch, the higher man, the one who transcends, who does not follow the herd, who forges his own law from the furnace of his suffering. He looked at the world around him, the lies, the mediocrity, the excuses, and he rejected it all, not because he hated life, but because he loved it too much to settle for anything less than its raw, brutal truth. And that truth is this: suffering is the gatekeeper of greatness. It's the hammer that shatters your illusions, the fire that incinerates your weakness, the storm that strips away everything false until only the essential remains. That is what pain gives you, clarity. Nietzsche didn't write his philosophy from ivory towers. He wrote it from hospital beds, from loneliness, from despair so deep it threatened to consume him. And still, he did not retreat. He wrote through the darkness. He created through the chaos. He believed not in salvation, but in transcendence, in the sacred responsibility of turning your suffering into something noble, something immortal. And that belief, that conviction, is the only thing that will carry you when the world feels like it's falling apart. Because it will. Life will test you. It will strip you bare. It will demand everything from you, and more. And when it does, the only question that matters is this: what will you make of it? You can curse the pain. You can drown in it. Or you can rise from it, with fire in your eyes and steel in your spine. You can use it to build strength, to build wisdom, to build purpose that's not bought, not borrowed, but earned through the crucible of suffering. This is not motivational fluff. This is not self-help comfort. This is truth carved from blood and silence and solitude. The kind of truth Nietzsche lived and died by. So stop searching for the easy path. There is no easy path. There is only the path that forges you, that burns away your weakness, that reveals the warrior underneath your hesitation, the philosopher beneath your fear, the builder beneath your sorrow. Do not run from your suffering. Run into it. Because inside it lives the version of you that's waiting to be born, the version that does not break, but becomes unbreakable. You want to know why most people never rise? Why they plateau into quiet desperation? It's because they see pain as punishment. But Nietzsche saw pain as permission, permission to evolve, to rise, to transcend the limitations of the average and create something divine from the ashes. You were not born to merely survive your wounds. You were born to wield them, to wear them like armor, to make every scar a symbol of defiance. Do you think Edison built the light bulb in the light? No, he created it in the dark, after failing 1,000 times. Do you think Lincoln led with ease? He lost elections, lost children, suffered depression. But he turned that suffering into wisdom, into leadership, into legacy. Ford went bankrupt. Disney was told he lacked imagination. These men did not escape adversity, they mastered it. Because they understood what Nietzsche shouted into the void, that your life is not measured by how safe you played it. It's measured by how much you overcame, and you don't overcome with comfort. You overcome by becoming so intimate with struggle that it can no longer intimidate you. So when the world hits, you don't flinch. You lean in. You let it sharpen your mind, expand your heart, and forge your will into iron. But that doesn't happen passively. It happens by choice. And that's what Nietzsche offered the world, the radical, terrifying freedom of choice. The ability to choose how you interpret your reality, how you shape your response, how you create meaning, even in the face of senseless suffering. He rejected the notion that life owed him anything. He refused to be a victim of fate. Instead, he declared war on the very idea of passivity. He chose the path of the creator, the overcomer, the sculptor of destiny. What does that mean for you? It means your pain doesn't get to define you unless you let it. It means the chaos around you isn't a sign to retreat, it's a challenge to rise. It means you stop asking why me and start asking what now. Because the greatest transformations don't come from comfort, they come from necessity. From being pushed to the edge and realizing the edge is not where you fall, it's where you fly. Nietzsche understood that the human spirit is not some delicate flame. It is a wildfire buried beneath excuses, waiting to be unleashed. But to ignite it, you must confront the darkness within you. Not hide from it, not numb it, not deny it, but face it with brutal honesty. That is what he meant by becoming who you are. Not accepting your limitations, but transcending them. Not playing by the rules of the herd, but forging your own code. Not begging for light, but becoming the source of it. The herd waits. The herd conforms. The herd avoids pain, and in doing so, they avoid greatness. But you, if you are willing, you can become something else entirely. Not by imitation, not by following a script, but by embracing the chaos and writing your own. Nietzsche was alone. He was ridiculed. His ideas misunderstood, even hated. He died in obscurity, his brilliance ignored. But time bends to truth. And decades later the world finally heard what he had whispered through clenched teeth, that the soul is not born, it is forged. That meaning is not given, it is created. That suffering is not a curse, it is the birthplace of greatness. So when you feel broken, remember Nietzsche was broken too. When you feel unseen, remember he was ignored. When you feel like giving up, remember he kept writing, through blindness, through migraines, through heartbreak, through the abyss. And from that abyss, he delivered a message more powerful than any shallow comfort could ever offer. You are not the result of what happens to you. You are the result of how you respond. That is your freedom. That is your power. You may not control the storms that batter your life, but you can control what you build from the wreckage. And if you choose to build strength, if you choose to build discipline, if you choose to build purpose that runs deeper than pain, then your suffering is not in vain. It becomes sacred. It becomes a weapon in your hands, a chisel against weakness, a hammer against doubt, a torch against darkness. But you must choose. That is the burden and the blessing of life. You must stand alone in the arena. You must face the silence and scream your truth into it. You must will yourself forward when every fiber in your body begs you to stop. And in doing so, you become the kind of person who can carry others, not with pity, but with power. That's what Nietzsche's pain gave the world. Not a man who broke, but a man who broke the illusion that suffering must make you less. He proved that suffering, wielded wisely, can make you more focused, more resilient, more creative, more compassionate, more dangerous to mediocrity. So what will you make of your pain? Will you bury it, or will you burn with it and rise? Will you numb it, or will you channel it into something eternal? Will you be crushed by your adversity? Or will you crush expectations and become the version of yourself you were born to be? The decision is yours. But know this, no transformation is possible without sacrifice. No reinvention is born without fire. And no greatness ever emerged from a comfort zone. So bless the pain, bless the struggle, bless the loneliness, the loss, the failure, the fear. Because if you choose to use them, they will give you something far more valuable than comfort ever could. They will give you your true self. Do not envy the man who's never tasted defeat. Envy the one who's been broken 1,000 times and stood back up without bitterness in his heart and without apology in his soul. That's the man who understands life. That's the man who knows himself. Nietzsche didn't become immortal because he had no pain. He became immortal because he made pain his compass. Every blow he took, every rejection, every failure, every night in silence was another piece of the puzzle that made him whole. He knew that to create anything real, anything timeless, anything that mattered, you had to bleed for it. You had to be willing to sacrifice your comfort on the altar of your calling. You had to risk your sanity for the possibility of truth. He believed the artist, the thinker, the leader, all must suffer, not as punishment, but as a sacred right. Because only through that fire does the soul emerge purified, sharp, clear. You want clarity? Stop running from the storm. Walk into it. Let the rain wash off what doesn't belong. Let the thunder shake loose everything weak and unworthy. Let the lightning show you what you've been too afraid to see. There is a deeper intelligence in pain, a ruthless honesty that burns away the illusions you cling to. It reveals who you really are when everything else is stripped away. That's the gift Nietzsche received in his darkest hours, and that's the same gift life offers you if you are willing to embrace it. So many people want greatness, but they want it with a padded seat and a map. They want applause before they've earned silence. They want trophies without building discipline. They want wisdom without the weight. But Nietzsche knew, it's the weight that makes you strong. It's the pressure that carves out depth. It's the long, lonely road that grants you vision. He said, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." That is not a cry of despair. It is a summons, a challenge to rise. To look your suffering in the eye and declare, "You will not destroy me. You will define me. You will not chain me. You will chisel me." That is the mindset of someone who refuses to be ordinary. That is the mindset of someone who builds greatness. You see, pain is the one thing that touches us all. But only the few turn it into art, into philosophy, into force. The rest, they collapse under its weight. They let it poison their thoughts. They make it their identity. But Nietzsche invites you to do the opposite, to transcend it, to turn it into power, and not just for yourself, but for the world, because when you rise from your suffering, something extraordinary happens. You become a light for others still trapped in the dark. You become a mirror, showing them what's possible. You become a standard, a living example that pain is not the end. It's the beginning, the crucible, the birthplace of truth. That's what Nietzsche gave us. Not comfort, not easy answers, but fire, a torch passed from one soul to another. And now, it's in your hands. So ask yourself, are you just going to sit with your pain, or are you going to build something with it? Are you going to hide from the suffering, Or are you going to look it dead in the eye and say, "This is where I begin"? There is no path to greatness that does not pass through the valley of pain. But here's the secret Nietzsche lived by. You don't walk through that valley to survive it. You walk through it to conquer it, to become something more than what you were before. To shed the skin of who the world told you to be and emerge as who you truly are. That is the essence of strength. It is not brute force. It is not false bravado. It is not the absence of pain. It is the mastery of it. The ability to create through it, to stand firm in it, to choose meaning over misery, discipline over escape, purpose over comfort. Because at the end of your life, it won't be the pleasures you remember. It'll be the mountains you climbed, the storms you survived, the fire you carried through the darkest nights. That's what makes a life great. That's what Nietzsche taught, through sickness, through madness, through years of isolation. He didn't just endure, he transformed. And so can you. Not by avoiding the suffering, but by redefining it. Not by shrinking, but by expanding into it. Not by cursing the pain, but by blessing it, for it is the sign that you are alive, that you are evolving, that you are capable of more. Do not reject your suffering. Do not bury your pain. Do not silence the voice that whispers from the depths of your despair, because that voice is not weakness. It is the call to become. It is the voice of potential, pounding on the walls of your current self, begging to be let out. Let it out. Let it roar. Let it burn everything false to the ground, and in the ashes, build the person you were meant to become, not the person the world conditioned you to be. That is the legacy of Friedrich Nietzsche, not one of ease, but of evolution. Not one of comfort, but of creation. And now that legacy is yours to carry, not just in words, but in action, in choices, in how you show up, in the face of pain, in the grip of fear, in the darkest chapters of your life. That's where the story turns. That's where the power begins. That's where you find out who you are and who you still can be. There is a moment, quiet, brutal, and sacred, when a man is left alone with nothing but his pain, no audience, no applause, no promise of reward, just silence. And in that silence, most men crumble. They shrink. They reach for distraction, for comfort, for escape. They try to drown the truth in noise. But a rare few, they listen. They let the silence speak. They let the pain teach. Because in that stillness, beneath the screams of ego and fear, something ancient begins to awaken, the will to power. Not domination over others, but domination over self. The will to rise, not because it's easy, but because not rising would be a betrayal of your soul. This is what Nietzsche meant. The will to power is the courage to become, even when the world offers you every reason to stop. It is the defiant decision to build meaning, even in the heart of madness. It is the unshakable resolve to say, "I will not be broken by this world. I will build something greater than it." That kind of power cannot be inherited. It cannot be taught in schools. It cannot be gifted by mentors, handed down in books, or found in fortune. It must be forged in the fire of your own suffering. That is the crucible of transformation. That is where the average disappear and the extraordinary emerge. Nietzsche didn't write from luxury. He didn't speak from a palace. He wrote from the pit, from sickness, from migraines that blinded him, from heartbreaks that shattered him, from a mind unraveling but refusing to surrender. And through it all he crafted ideas sharp enough to cut through time, words that still ignite fire over a century later. Why? Because he lived them. He didn't theorize strength. He embodied it, not in ease, but in endurance. And that is what you must do if you want to rise. You must become the proof of your own power. You must become the living embodiment of resilience. Not the fantasy, not the filtered version, but the blood-soaked truth of what it really means to keep going when everything hurts. Because that is when your soul stops pretending and starts becoming. That is when your words gain weight. That is when your presence becomes a force. Not because of what you've achieved, but because of what you've survived. That's what Nietzsche gave us. Not formulas for success, not empty positivity, but depth, grit, fire, a path to greatness carved through the very thing most people avoid, suffering. But here's the irony. The more you avoid suffering, the more powerless you become. The more you embrace it, the more unstoppable you become. Because suffering reveals your true strength or your lack of it. And when you decide to face it, fully, honestly, relentlessly, you start to change. Not overnight, not with some cinematic burst of glory, but gradually, brutally, beautifully. Your mind hardens, your focus sharpens, your excuses die. Your character deepens, and something fierce is born. That is the seed of greatness, and Nietzsche understood. You can't plant that seed in comfort. It only grows in chaos. It only thrives in challenge. It only blooms when watered with tears and blood and persistence. So stop looking for easy. Stop begging for calm. Stop asking for your life to get lighter, and start demanding that you get stronger. That's how Nietzsche lived. That's how the giants of history lived, not by seeking less burden, but by building broader shoulders. Lincoln buried his children and still stood tall. Mandela was caged for decades and still emerged a lion. Churchill faced the collapse of a world and refused to blink. And you are made of the same fire. You are made to stand in the storm and smile, to walk into the fire and not be consumed, but transformed. But you must choose it. You must earn it. Every single day, with every thought, every action, every rejection you rise from, every temptation you resist, every time you decide to move forward anyway. That's what it means to build greatness through pain. It's not a moment. It's a lifetime of choosing to be more. And eventually, your life becomes your message. Not because it was perfect, but because it was true. Because you didn't run from suffering. You ran into it and came out carrying light. That is the legacy Nietzsche left behind. And it is now the torch in your hand, so what will you do with it? You must decide now, before the next storm hits, before life breaks your plans, before the world tests your strength again, what kind of person you are becoming. Because when the pressure mounts, you will not rise to the level of your potential. You will fall to the level of your preparation. And Nietzsche's life was preparation. Every setback prepared him. Every illness refined him. Every failure shaped him, not into what the world called success, but into what the soul calls sovereignty. He did not become powerful by accident. He became powerful by intention, by building his philosophy, not on comfort but on confrontation, with fear, with doubt, with death itself. He said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But what most people forget is that your why is not found in books, it's found in battle. It's found in your darkest moments, when no one is watching and everything in you wants to quit. But something deeper says, "Not yet." That voice is your why. That defiance is your calling. That resistance to surrender is your truth. And it does not come from pleasure. It does not grow in sunshine. It is forged in hell. That is where meaning is born, not in the light, but in the fire that precedes it. If you are suffering right now, good, you are being called. Called to dig deeper. Called to strip away the lies. Called to kill the version of yourself that was never real and resurrect the one that was born for this very moment. You don't need a perfect life. You need power in the midst of chaos. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You need the courage to believe in yourself, even when you don't feel worthy. You don't need a smooth road. You need to become the kind of person who walks barefoot through thorns and keeps going. Nietzsche became that man. Not because he was born different, but because he refused to be average. And you have that same choice right now. You can blame the world. You can complain about the pain. Or you can wield it. Use it like a hammer. Use it like a sword. Use it to carve out a life of purpose and power and presence that no one can steal. Because when you walk through hell with your head high, when you choose meaning over misery, creation over collapse, something incredible happens. You stop being a victim of your story, and you become the author of it, the architect, the fire starter, the storm. That is what Nietzsche lived for. That is what he gave us. Not soft comfort, but hard truth. The kind that stings your skin, but strengthens your spine. And now it's your turn. No more running, no more numbing, no more waiting for the world to change. It's you that must change. It's you who must become so grounded in purpose, so rooted in meaning, so damn unbreakable, that the chaos no longer moves you. It obeys you. But that power isn't gifted. It is forged. With every early morning you rise when you want to sleep. With every workout you finish when your body begs for rest. With every project you complete when doubt whispers, "You're not good enough." With every moment you choose to stand in the pain, not because it feels good, but because it is the only path to something real. That's the secret. That's the path Nietzsche walked, and the truth is, no one will ever understand what you carry. No one will ever truly know the weight you've borne, the scars beneath your skin, the nights you almost broke. But they don't have to. Because you are not here to be understood. You are here to become something greater. And those who rise, those who lead, those who change the world, they do not wait to be rescued. They rescue themselves. They do not cry for a savior. They become one. And if your suffering has taught you anything, let it be this. You are not fragile, you are not finished, and you are not alone. Because inside of you is the same spark Nietzsche carried through madness. The same fire that burned in every thinker, every warrior, every creator who ever refused to be tamed. Let it burn. Let it consume the weakness. Let it forge something eternal. Let the fire burn through everything false, every shallow desire, every excuse, every mask you've worn, just to be accepted by a world that fears the real you. Because that world doesn't need more comfort seekers. It doesn't need more polite applause and plastic dreams. It needs you, fully awake, fully alive, brutally honest, and ferociously committed to becoming. Not becoming what society demands, not becoming what they say you should be, but becoming who you were always meant to be, underneath the fear, the shame, the noise. And that becoming, that greatness, will cost you. It will cost you your comfort. It will cost you your illusions. It will cost you the approval of the weak and the applause of the mediocre. But what you get in return is freedom. Freedom from the prison of pretending. Freedom from the disease of comparison. Freedom from the lie that says life is about avoiding pain, when the truth is that pain is the doorway to your highest self. Nietzsche knew this. That's why he said, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. You want to shine? Then embrace your chaos. You want to lead? Then stand in your storm and refuse to flinch. You want to be great? Then stop worshiping ease and start walking into the fire with your fists clenched and your eyes wide open. Because every scar will teach you, every failure will refine you, every rejection will purify you, and eventually you will no longer be afraid of breaking, because you will have already been broken and rebuilt yourself with your own bare hands. That is the essence of power. That is the soul of greatness. Not the image, but the reality. Not the performance, but the process. And it's dirty, it's brutal, it's lonely. But it is also the most sacred work a human being can do, because in a world that is built to distract you, seduce you, soften you, you are choosing the path of fire. You are choosing to be tempered, not coddled, to be disciplined, not deluded, to stand alone in truth rather than collapse in the comfort of lies. And the pain is your proof. It means you're growing. It means you're alive. It means you haven't given up. And the longer you carry it, the more you realize it was never your enemy. It was your invitation, an invitation to awaken, to stop sleepwalking through your life and start commanding it, to stop wishing and start willing. That's the difference between the many and the few. The many complain about the weight, the few become strong enough to carry it. And if you want to live a life worth remembering, then understand this. Pain is not the obstacle. Pain is the path. There is no greatness without suffering. There is no evolution without discomfort. There is no transformation without fire. Nietzsche endured unbearable agony year after year, knowing that every moment of torment was feeding his truth, sharpening his clarity, stripping him of illusion, leaving behind only what mattered. You must do the same. You must stop waiting to be rescued. Stop hoping to be saved. Stop praying for an easier road and pray instead for stronger legs, because no one is coming to do it for you. This world will not reward your intentions. It will reward your execution, your sweat, your sacrifice, your scars. It will not give you what you want. It will give you what you're willing to earn, through pain, through effort, through war with your own weakness. That is the battlefield of greatness. That is where the real ones rise, not in comfort, but in crisis, not in praise, but in pressure, not in safety, but in struggle. So if you're hurting right now, if you're tired, if you're broken, good. That means you're exactly where you need to be. Now stand up, clench your jaw, set your eyes forward, and walk. One step, then another, until the pain becomes fuel, until the weakness burns away, until you are no longer a product of your suffering, but the master of it. That is how Nietzsche used pain. That is how you must, because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more fire, and that fire is you. Yes, you are the fire, not the flicker, not the ember, but the inferno waiting to consume everything false and forge everything real. And that fire has one fuel, your will. Will is what Nietzsche worshipped, not comfort, not fame, not fleeting happiness, but the will to power. The force that drives a man to stand alone in the storm and say, I will not bow, I will not break, I will become. That is not arrogance. That is the ultimate act of self-respect. To take your suffering, not as punishment, but as proof that life is testing you, tempering you, challenging you to rise above your circumstances and become the cause of them. That's the shift Nietzsche made. He stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, how can I use this? He turned agony into art. He turned despair into clarity. He turned isolation into immortality. And so can you. But only if you stop looking at pain as a cage and start seeing it as a forge. The weak want their pain to disappear. The strong want their pain to mean something. The weak try to escape it. The strong build themselves inside it. And when you build inside it, brick by brick, breath by breath, you stop being the victim of your life and start becoming the designer of it. This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of the Übermensch, not a man above others, but a man above his former self, a man who has died 1,000 deaths, but kept rising, a man who has been betrayed, beaten, abandoned, and still stands tall with fire in his chest and purpose in his eyes. That man lives in you, but he will not emerge from comfort. He will not be born in safety. He only awakens when you bleed for a reason. When you embrace the truth that you don't need to be saved, you need to step into the fire and claim your power. And that power, it doesn't speak in loud words, it speaks in quiet choices. Waking up when it's easier to sleep, working when others waste time, saying no to distractions that drown your vision, fighting forward when your legs are shaking and your mind is begging you to quit. That's where real confidence is born, not in speeches, not in quotes, not in borrowed inspiration, but in the moments you endure when everything in you says stop and you say go. And suddenly you're not fragile anymore. You're focused. You're dangerous. You're ready. Because when you choose discipline over emotion, when you choose purpose over comfort, when you choose to walk into the pain and own it, you are no longer becoming something. You already are. That's what Nietzsche discovered. That pain doesn't make you less. It makes you real. It burns away the layers you never needed. It reveals the steel beneath your skin. And when you finally stand in that fire long enough, when you stop resisting the pressure and start leaning into it, you see it clearly, that everything was preparing you. Every betrayal shaped your resilience. Every failure taught your mind. Every lonely night gave you access to your soul. You were never being punished. You were being refined. And now it's your time to choose. Will you shrink when it hurts, or will you expand? Will you drown in excuses, or will you breathe fire and rise? Because that's the only path to greatness. Through the trial, through the pain, through the fire that melts the small self and awakens the real one. Nietzsche didn't survive by chance. He didn't endure by accident. He chose to suffer consciously, to transmute pain into power, to look hell in the face and not flinch. You must do the same. You must walk toward the adversity that others run from. You must confront the demons within before you ever conquer the world without. And when you do, when you finally embrace that the pain was your teacher, not your enemy, you will laugh like Nietzsche did, not because the suffering is over, but because you are finally free. Free from weakness, free from illusion, free from the lie that says pain is a curse, when in truth, it is the birthplace of your highest self. And once you've seen that, truly seen it, you will never run again. You will walk into every battle with calm eyes and a clenched jaw, because you know now what most never learned. Pain was the path, and you were born to walk it. There is a sacred brutality in choosing to live wide awake in a world built on sedation. Most sleep through life. They numb, they scroll, they escape. But you must wake up and face the storm, because the storm is not here to destroy you. It's here to show you who you are. And that's the part Nietzsche never softened, never diluted. He didn't romanticize the struggle. He embraced it. He told the world, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." You think the weight is too much? Then you have not yet locked on to your why. Not the shallow why of impressing others. Not the fleeting why of proving something, but the deep why. The one that grabs you by the bones and whispers, "You were not born to blend in. You were born to build something eternal, and it begins with the fire you are willing to endure." That is the foundation of the Übermensch, a man who is not driven by applause but by purpose, a man who does not chase pleasure but meaning, a man who does not crumble under pain but transforms it. So let it hurt, let it sting, let it crush everything inside you that was never meant to last, and from that rubble, rise, with eyes clearer than ever, with breath slower, stronger, with a will carved out of everything you thought would break you. Because here is the hidden truth of life. You are not meant to avoid hardship. You are meant to become worthy of it. You are meant to become a creature so fierce, so unwavering, that the world itself begins to bend to your will, not through violence, not through arrogance, but through the unshakable force of presence. And where does presence come from? Pain, unanswered prayers, unseen work, unheard cries. It comes from nights alone where you questioned if you could keep going, and then did. It comes from forging a vision so sharp it slices through fear, and building a discipline so strong it silences every excuse. This is what Nietzsche built, line by line, breath by breath, as he suffered in silence. The world did not cheer him. They called him mad, they called him broken, they called him dangerous, but his soul was on fire, and the fire spoke louder than the world ever could, because he knew what most forget, that your destiny is not determined by your comfort zone, but by the fire you're willing to stand in without losing your integrity. That is power, not the mask, not the performance. But the man who refuses to be owned by his pain, that is the one the world remembers. That is the one the world cannot control. And that is what you are here to become. So stop looking at your wounds like weaknesses. They are blueprints. Stop hiding your struggle like it's shameful. It is the raw material of your transformation. Every dark season you've survived was a message from life saying, you are not done yet. You have more to give, more to build, more to become. But only if you stop waiting for permission and start walking like you were born for this. Because you were. You weren't made for the shallow end. You weren't designed to blend in. You were built for depth. You were made to carry burdens heavier than the average man dares to touch, and to do it with grace, with vision, with fire in your chest and silence on your lips. That's the legacy Nietzsche left, not of comfort, but of conquest. Not of escape, but of endurance. And if you take anything from his agony, from his words, from the battle scars etched into every line he wrote, it is this: do not waste your pain. Use it, lift it, harness it, build greatness from it. Because the pain will come whether you like it or not. The question is, will it be the reason you fold, or the reason you rise? And so now, here you stand. No more illusions, no more hiding, no more waiting for the perfect moment to begin, because this is it. This is the moment that separates the many from the few, the moment you stop treating your wounds like anchors and start wielding them like weapons. The moment you finally understand what Nietzsche gave everything, his health, his comfort, his sanity, to teach that suffering is not the enemy. It is the origin of your power. That life will not hand you greatness. It will test you, break you, bury you, and then whisper, let's see what you're made of. This world does not need another polished face. It doesn't need another masked smile. It needs a soul who is willing to walk barefoot across the coals of existence, not to impress, not to boast, but because they have become the fire itself. That is what you are called to do, to stop bargaining with fate, to stop seeking comfort where you should be seeking challenge, to stop asking for ease and start commanding inner strength, because the truth is brutal and beautiful. No one is coming to save you. No one owes you understanding. No one is required to see your greatness. You must rise anyway. You must choose to be the kind of person who takes their scars and turns them into scripture, who walks into the battle broken and walks out reborn. Because greatness is not found in the absence of pain. It is born through it, forged in the silence of your darkest hours. Tested in the moments when your body is broken, your spirit is torn, and the only thing left is the will to take one more step. And that step changes everything. It's not about one massive leap. It's not about sudden fame or viral success. It's about the thousands of invisible steps you take when no one is clapping, when the world looks away, when the pain screams louder than your dreams, and you still keep going. That is the step Nietzsche took, again and again, even as his health failed, even as his vision blurred, even as the world misjudged him, because he knew the world doesn't belong to the strongest or the smartest or the luckiest. It belongs to those who refuse to give in. It belongs to those who build themselves out of stone and flame. It belongs to you if you decide, really decide, to stop being a reaction and start becoming a force. So look at your pain now and thank it. Yes, thank it. Because it woke you up. It pulled you from the shallow life of ease and dragged you into the crucible of meaning. It reminded you that you were not born to exist quietly. You were born to carve your name into the bones of time. You were born to speak through action, to inspire through discipline, to lead through example, to create with fire, and to suffer well, to suffer not in vain, but on purpose. That is what Nietzsche did. He did not run from pain. He became worthy of it, and now it is your turn. No more retreat, no more pretending, no more giving your power to circumstances, to critics, to comfort, or to fear. Stand tall, face forward, and speak to the storm, not with words, but with your walk. Let the world hear the silence of your resolve. Let the pain know it can no longer own you, because you are not here to survive. You are here to rise, to conquer, to awaken, and to prove, with every breath you take, that pain was never your prison. It was your proving ground. And in the end, when they ask how you became so relentless, when they ask how you built something unshakable from a life of trials, when they ask how you endured what others collapsed beneath, you will smile, not with arrogance, but with clarity, and say, I became great because I bled for it, because like Nietzsche, you learned to suffer, you learned to rise, and you became unstoppable.